school there, and then later on came back and eventually did not even go along with the people who fought for independence. Is that such
That
kind
is
of
false. Kenyatta was the symbol of the struggle, was the head of the Mau Mau War. And his voice made a lot of impression over people whenever he talked.
He didn't have to go to the battlefield.
No,
Yes.
no. And people don't know, but you know, some of us who are like teenagers, at the time Kenyatta came out of detention, know the impression that people, whenever people heard Kenyatta's voice, they knew it was a voice of liberation, of a new dawn, of our nationhood.
And you having worked under the colonial government,
Yes.
I can assume, right? You were working under the colonial government. How was your feelings? How are your feelings? Sorry.
You know, I did not work for salary. I was elected Maendeleo ya Wanawake chair during the British colony. But I had the freedom to meet with African women and to chart our new, way of thinking and way of doing things.
So it's a way of, you had this power to balance out and even influence.
But even my election was not easy at that time.
Okay.
Lady Bicha, who was the wife of the Bishop of East Africa.
And this is being elected into Maendeleo.
Maendeleo ya Wanawake.
Okay.
The African women insisted that they now wanted, and they elected me. But after my election, some of the white women got up and said they had the right to object. They said I was a simple young woman, oblivious of anything that the women needed, and therefore cannot be helpful to the African women themselves.
Yes.
But eventually, the women very excited about my election, and they were really, singing, and really it was good. I also felt good that the women really supported me.
Yes.
So it was different then when we started really celebrating our own way of doing things before we became independent. A few years before independence. But when the day that we were, we became a nation, we didn't sleep for many, we just didn't sleep. It was too good to be true.
Was it in the morning that day?
It was midnight.
Okay.
At the ground where the Uhuru grounds.
Okay.
Where the British handed over to Kenyatta, and the flag British came down, and the Kenyan flag went down. Many people just cried, and of course you are so emotional, you didn't even know what to do with yourself. But that was the greatest moment that caught my whole being. That with a simple flag coming down, you could own a whole country and be part of the growth and pride of that new world. That had been prevented from your occupation or even service. Yes. So that, as I say, was perhaps the best and the most that impressed me during that time at the set of our independence.
In fact, the moment was so electric. Even us, we were young.
Okay, I was about to ask you that.
We didn't understand, but just the emotion and the electricity, it felt like electric.
All right.
We were out on the streets at home drinking Fanta.
Yes.
Like they left us a lot of sodas.
Okay.
And celebrating.
Yes.
Because it was this fantastic, it felt like the whole world, everything changed at midnight. Everything changed. It was just a wonderful moment.
There was no other world. It was Kenya.
It was Kenya.
I didn't think about the world that we had learned in school. I was in Kenya, and I was free, and I could go anywhere and do anything, and Oh, you don't know. You know, people who came after that did not have this feeling, this pride of being part and parcel of a free nation.
Yes.
Where we had big dreams on how Kenya, of course, I'm very disappointed now, but we did very well in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yes, and there was no,
now Kenya becomes powerful against the Briton at that time. Now it becomes, and KANU becomes the ruling party.
Yes.
And was it a mistake or not a mistake for President Kenyatta to forgive and let the Britons stay or go at will? What were the moves? What did you feel?
I think not just Kenyatta, but the leadership at that time had the wisdom to do whatever they did. Because if they had been difficult and did like what happened in South Africa before the release of Mandela, they would have killed so many more people. Already they had killed many people in detention camps, everywhere in the villages, especially Kikuyu people.
Yes.
But that giving freedom for us to start afresh, to own our country and to develop it ourselves, gave you a feeling of such pride that did not matter what else happened.
Yes.
And if that had not happened, it would have been very difficult for Kenyan people to accept and work with the British. In fact, that war would have spread to all other tribes in the country. So it was a good thing.
So it's a good thing it happened, and it's a good thing the way you guys reacted at that time.
And we were content, and we were and we were proud for the first time in life to be Kenyan and not part of any part of the world like the British Empire and things like that. It was great. It was really wonderful.
Because I remember, was it Idi Amin at one point kicked every Indian and foreigners out, and I think it became something more.
But that was very cruel. He could have done it better if he really wanted those Indians to go away and others. He could have done it. He could have, employed more humane way of doing things.
So, there was a meeting that happened in Ghana, I think, between a lot of leaders, in which one of them was Mwalimu Nyerere, and Kenyatta was there. Maybe I cannot attest to that. And but then and it was about unification of Africa.
About the
unification of Africa. And Kwame Nkrumah was with the favor that we should unite Africa as soon as possible, instead of staying disintegrated into countries and the borders that were created. And Nyerere at that time was against that, and he decided to say that, no, we should build our small countries first. And I think people went his way. I don't know if Kenyatta was there or not, but what do you think about the unification of Africa then?
I think a lot of mistakes were made. You see, when Nkrumah appealed to African heads of state in Addis Ababa, to become one, one army, one air, one airways, one everything.
Yes,
they should have done it.
They should have done.
They should not have waited, because then these other states which come later could have been assimilated, could have worked together with everybody else.
Yes,
but that delay of saying no, let us wait. And the British really encourage people to wait, because after tasting power, you don't want to lose it.
Exactly, and that was one of his the main reasons he gave. He said, if we wait and each individual leader tastes power, they will not want to give it up.
And that is what happened to Africa.
Let us do it now, before we have leaders who have become so accustomed to power that they do not want to relinquish power. That was his main reason.
You see, at that time, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania had one airways, one airline. They had one communication system, one railroad. There was the East African Railways and Harbours, of course, and postal services. Same money, our currency was the same. We lost a lot by
separating ourselves,
casting asunder all this wonderful way of doing it. But it did happen. I think Africa has really suffered because of this disintegration.
Okay.
I wish that at the East African level, I wish we had kept the East African community.
Yes.
One currency, one airline, one postal services, railways, because all these things, it's a very small area. We would have benefited a great deal, really going out of it to develop the bigger. And then, one thing that really hurt Kenya, especially Kenyan most, was Nyerere talked about undugu.
Yes.
And it was brotherhood. And everybody in Tanzania, Tanganyika before Tanzania was ndugu.
Yes.
In Kenya, we loved everybody, but we were tribes.
Tribes.
And that was a torn that beautiful country apart. We became tribal nations. And then we've had wars, tribe against tribe.
Yes.
We have such hatred for other tribes that even when they stand for election, they'll nickname them like Satan or terrible names that Africans should not even refer their own African people.
Yes.
And I think people look at us and really laugh because Kenya was the leader in Eastern Africa. I am really worried. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Kenya is becoming a very tribal nation. In fact, it's no longer a nation.
So
we have a nation, with all due respect. But in our own hearts of hearts, we are tribal nations.
Extremely tribal.
Yes, very, very sad indeed.
Is it getting worse?
Yes. So, of course, then what do the small tribes do? When you have the big tribes like the Kikuyu, the Kalenjin, the Luo, the Luhya, how do you feed the Turkana and all these other small tribes?
Yes.
It's a very sad story, but we can now start improving upon what we already have created for ourselves. And I think I would really appeal to the present leadership to start building nationhood. So that we don't lose it. My worry is what I see when you ask our people, for example, to do some soul searching about our present system of governance and of nationhood.
Yes.
I have noticed that soul searching, the soul is not there.
The soul is not there.
Yeah, the soul is gone.
Oh my God.
So what searches who?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really hopeful that younger people who are well educated, who really feel for our country to make it really great, will bring in new ideas.
But you see, Uhuru Kenyatta was in America, right?
That's right.
Yes.
At a community college somewhere, or maybe university. Myself coming to the US opened up my mind a lot. It taught me how to stop thinking about my village and to stop thinking about myself. Buy a plot, buy land, then my cousin. It gave me this Africanization, unity kind of thing that now it's not about myself. It's about others.
Yes.
And about my African people.
Yes.
And my Kenyan people. And yes, we should always begin from home to love your wife, your child, then outside. Yeah. But then the nepotism and everything's him. And I thought Uhuru, having come from the Americas, came and his mind opened up even more because he's been to many other places. And could he have prevented or at least reduced tribalism when he was in office? And where were you? And at that time, what were you doing?
Well, I was in Kenya, and I had retired when Uhuru became the president of Kenya. I think he tried. But remember, it was the backdrop of Kikuyu nationhood.
Yes.
The Kamwene thing that is now creeping its ugly head back.
Yes.
And of course, to be a Kikuyu was a great thing. You are above other tribes, and you owned Kenya, and you owned the finances of Kenya, and you are the richest in the region, and so on. It did not augur well for our people, but that is trend that Kenyans have used all these 50 years to remain like sort of in one country, one government, and so on, has been exemplary. Kenyan people have done very well. I really hope and pray that does not spill over when younger people who did not know all this history come into power in another few years and see the richest people in certain regions and the poorest in other regions. And there's no war that these poorest people created or any harm that they did to other tribes, just because like they were who they were, that they are nobodies anymore. You know, I remember when Tom Mboya was assassinated, Mary, who we have been talking to, was, I think, about 3-4 years old. She was in nursery school. She went to Nairobi hospital on foot from Lavington, where we lived, and we thought we had lost her. Then late in the night, somebody brought her back home. That because Mboya was.
Why did she walk there?
Because people were children were going to see if it was true that Mboya had been killed.
Really?
So she just joined the crowd and went.
Mboya was such a hero, even to kids.
Oh, wow. You know, we lived in Lavington at that time.
Okay.
And Mboya had a bicycle, and he had a seat at the back. He would call at our house on his way to the shop.
He was ordinary like that.
Oh, yeah. He would pick us up.
Yes.
To go and get ice cream.
Mboya, you were in touch with Mboya.
Adam's Arcade, yes. Buy them ice cream and then bring them back home and ride his bicycle back to his house. And when Mboya died, these children were uncontrollable.
It was devastating.
We didn't know now what to do with them.
What did you do?
I was actually at Kenya High by then.
Kenya High? You smart girl.
Yes. Well. So that was a very different experience.
Yes.
Everything seemed to just stop. I remember being in the classroom.
Okay.
And just looking out the window and thinking, is this the end of the world? It was really and truly world altering. It's like something shifted in my heart, but also as I looked out, it felt like something shifted in the world. It was just,
and indeed it did.
It actually did. Yes. Yes, it did.